The reading from the Science of Mind Daily Guides. Yes, we're a little bit late. I think I mentioned yesterday I will be helping Reverend Jesse teach class all day today. Class finished about 6:45, and then we had to dash out before the store closed, get some groceries, and then here we are. You don't need to know the rest of the details. Today's talk is really about persistence and practice. So here it is. I'm just going to get right into it. It's actually called consistent practice. First quote is from someone most people have heard of, famous American poet Ella Wheeler Wilcox, who said, and she also, anyway, we'll carry on. Like the winds of the sea are the ways of fate. As we voyage along through life, 'tis the will of the soul that decides its goal, and not the calm or the strife. So I think that's pretty self-evident. 'Tis the will of the soul that decides the goal, and not the calm or the strife. And this is from Ernest Holmes in Spiritual Awareness on pages 21 and 22. He says, "It is of no use to meditate for 10 minutes a day and say, I am surrounded by prosperity. Everything I do shall prosper. And then for the rest of the day, think that nothing is good. Effective meditation or prayer is the moment when we focus our thinking and fully accept the answer to our desire. The mold of acceptance is the measure of our experience. The infinite fills all molds and forever flows into new and greater ones." He's talking about mental molds here. "Within us, the unborn possibility of limitless experience. Ours is the privilege of giving birth to it. Acceptance is a mental and a spiritual act. The mind accepting its highest hope in complete confidence, placing its entire reliance on a power greater than itself." And as I said, that's from Spiritual Awareness, pages 21 and 22. And this is Reverend Jesse's take on this. He said, spiritual practice takes, well, practice. The usual reason we abandon our affirmative statements is that we have not believed them in the first place. Quote, surrounded by prosperity, unquote, may seem a stretch if we feel we haven't ever been that and don't know anyone else who has. In such a case, we should affirm what we can buy into, and maybe just a little bit beyond that, as an energizing uphill climb. Each successive meditation time can then build on the previous one, so we avoid stumbling back into a hopeless submission to things as they are. Quote, the mold of acceptance, unquote, is the size of the container we each begin to draw from the infinite in our minds. The measure of our experience is our takeaway. We're learning to place our reliance on something greater than our thoughts, yet each thought brings us closer to home. Yeah, not last night, the night before last, Thursday night to Friday morning, I waking up during the middle of the night with lots of random thoughts going on. I didn't really have anything to worry about per se, but all these random thoughts kept coming in. And this is somewhere at about, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. So what I did was I focused on the sentence, I am grateful for the good in my life. And I kept repeating that. I am grateful for the good in my life. And at first, thoughts tried to intrude on it, but eventually, nothing intruded. And I could just simply repeat, I'm grateful for the good in my life. And then this calmness came over me. and I just drifted off to sleep. And in the morning, I felt refreshed. And that calm was amazing because as I just kept repeating, I'm grateful for the good in my life, it's amazing. This calmness just came, took over me. I felt relaxed. There wasn't a care in the world. There were no extraneous thoughts coming in whatsoever. The only thing in my head was, I'm grateful for the good in my life. And then, as I said, I fell back asleep and I went up refreshed. But it takes not only practice, it takes persistence. And it's the same thing when we meditate. And what Reverend Jesse's saying here is that if we set the bar too high, we're going to fail. You know, sometimes we go to lectures, classes, talks, whatever, and we come away all enthusiastic. And somebody said, you have to meditate for 30 minutes a day. And then we come out of there and we start trying to meditate from no meditation to 30 minutes a day. Now, yeah, there are some people who can make that work, but for most people, it won't work because you're not used to meditating, and trying to do 30 minutes from scratch just doesn't work. If you're in a group, it's kind of easier, but if you're on your own trying to do that, it's really hard. But if you start at a lower level, you know, the class I went through, I mentioned the other day that they told us do 5 minutes 3 times a day. So if you start at a lower level, somebody in our class today said, I don't see why anybody can't meditate for 20, 30 minutes. Well, no, not everybody can from scratch. So it's okay to start, even if you start with 1 minute, just doing it, and then just add to it until you can do more. So, and it's the same thing when we're trying to achieve a goal. Most people cannot use visualization to take a quantum leap. Some people can, but most people can't do that. What we have to do is think about what we can reasonably think we can achieve. And then, as Reverend Jesse says, just bring it up one little notch and then use our affirmations around that. Because we're giving our mind something that it can accept. If you give your mind something that's beyond it and it can't accept it, you're going to go nowhere fast. But if you give your mind something it can accept and just ask it to stretch a little bit, then you're going to do that. It's the same thing when people say, you should tithe. You know, everybody should tithe. Well, tithing is classed as 10%. Where did the 10% come from? It came from the Hebrew scripture. Is 10% a good number? Nobody knows, really. Nobody. And people saying, yes, when you tithe 10%, all this is going to happen. No, nobody knows. What we do know is this, that if you give to the level that you're comfortable with, then you feel good about it, then that is the level you should give. And then in the future, see if you can bring it up a notch until eventually maybe you do tithe, however you define tithing. So it's always doing something that we believe we can accept, and maybe just a little tiny bit more. There's no point in giving if you really do it grudgingly. You may as well not do it at all. So whatever church organization you go to, whatever, if what you're being asked to do or what you think you should do is being done grudgingly, don't do it. Come down to a level that you say, yeah, I'm comfortable with that, I can do that. And that is the level that you should do. And that applies to whoever you are, whether you're a minister, a practitioner, a deacon, whatever you are. It's the level that you can accept as being reasonable. And then in the future, you can always try and build it up a notch. It's the same thing when you're trying to achieve a goal. For most of us, we have to do something that is fairly reasonable. So if your bank balance is completely empty, and it's been empty for months or years, then just believe you're getting more money in than you get in now, and work from there. So in other words, the mold of acceptance means the amount that you can truly believe that you can accept in your life, whatever it is. So That's my preaching for today. Reverend Lisa will be on tomorrow morning at 9:30. Reverend Jesse will be talking tomorrow. Well, service will begin at 11 o'clock and it ends about 12, 5 minutes before, 10 minutes after 12, somewhere in that range. And you can reach all of this same place on Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page, Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page. And if you missed the service, you can find it on YouTube, either later tomorrow or the next day. That's all I got. The affirmation: I have complete confidence in the Spirit and its action in my experience. I have complete confidence in the Spirit and its action in my experience. I have belief. So until next time, namaste.